So, I'm going to share my story with you because I think that some of you may not be familiar with it. Am I getting a crutch here at some point maybe? I think so. Let me start from the beginning. I wanted to leave Sweden in the mid-90s. I felt that the Swedish mind was a little bit narrow, so I was trying to go as far away as possible. And I was choosing between Sydney and San Francisco. I ended up in San Francisco because the airplane ticket was actually cheaper. I surfed for a while, hung out on the beach, and then I thought, oh God, I have an education, I probably need to go find a job. So I knocked on doors in Silicon Valley. This is before the internet, so there was a newspaper, right? I read the ads, and I found a company that wanted to hire me, and they sponsored me with my first work visa. I was doing international sales for a hardware company. It was actually a fantastic experience. I had a manager who told me a piece of advice that I've been thinking about a lot lately. He said, you never have to do business with anybody who makes you feel uncomfortable. That was pretty good advice. So, am I getting any background slides here? No? Yes? Okay. I don't think so. Let's see. Oh, no, that's not me. Those are not the ones. That's okay. I'm going to leave it with that, and I'm just going to have this in front of me, just so I don't lose you in the story. So in 2000, I was part of starting up a software company, an enterprise software company called Sambolic. It was, if you've ever run your own business, you know that it comes with serious ups and downs, and that it's really hard. You work all the time, you never take a break, you never take vacation. For me, I mean, I took a little bit of time off when I had my babies. I had 3 during the Sambolic years. But other than that, you work nonstop. We had also said to ourselves to not get so emotionally attached the way we had done with our previous company, but it's really hard. I became one with Sambolic. In 2001, the first major dip came to us. We had developed our file system for the telco industry, and the entire market for us disappeared. So we had to go back, we had to rethink, rebrand, refocus, and we went back to the broadcast industry, a space that we knew really well from before, because our previous software company had operated in that space. 2004 was another one of those really hard times for me personally. I was forced to leave the country. No, I was not a criminal, but I couldn't renew my work visa anymore. And it didn't matter that I employed Americans, paid my taxes, and that I had an American child. I ended up spending 10 months in Sweden, which was hard for me, but it was great for Sambolic. I ended up building our reseller network during those 10 months and building a good, solid customer base. The market evolved, and so did the technology, and in 2008, we really thought we were in good hands with Microsoft. We spent a lot of time in Seattle. And then November happened, and the market crashed completely. I think all of you remember where you were in 2009 if you were working. It was really hard. We had to cut salaries. We managed to get by without letting any of our employees go. Our investors closed their wallets, and we really struggled to get through. The customers barely wanted to renew their support contract, and closing a new deal was like 10 times the amount of work. So how do you get through that? I mean, how do you, just like the runner we saw, how do you get up from something like that and keep on going? Well, there's a grit, there's a perseverance, there's a determination, and kind of a raw ambition to show the world that you can do the impossible. Everybody was telling us not to, but we wanted to show them that we could do the impossible. I think in my case, it was also a fear of losing. Failure's just never been an option for me. And so the way that I dealt with it was by putting things into perspective, like distancing myself from the problem. When things were getting really tough, I would say, you know, it doesn't get any better than this. What? Well, no, because look at all the things that we do have. Let's not just look at the things that we don't have. try not to become one with the problem. The problem is over here and you're here. You're not one with it. And making sure it's business, not personal. I know, it's easier said than done. When you're responsible for feeding more families than your own, that could be really hard. Anyway, it all ended on a good note. Business really picked up in 2010 to 2014, and in 2015, Symbolic was acquired by Citrix. I think, I'm sorry. So with all of this, there's actually a major secret that I want to share with you. And this is one of these things where I'm like coming out as a woman, right? In psychology, or there's a woman called Jennifer Brown who works with diversity and inclusion in New York. And she talks about covering. And we all, every single one of us, cover parts of our personalities, a little bit or a lot bit, to protect ourselves from judgment and criticism. It takes a lot of energy to cover whatever it is that you're covering. And in my case, it was no different. My co-founder at Symbolic, and the company before that, was and is my husband. So what? What's the big deal, you might think? Well, you know, it was a big deal, because we kept it a secret for 15 years. We didn't share this outside of Symbolic at all. Because when you work in the enterprise space, you start a company and you run it, people will say, oh, it's a mom and pop shop. That doesn't go over very well when you're playing nice with EMC and Cisco. And should you, God forbid, try to find VC funding, which I'm proud to say that we didn't have to, then the first thing they'll do is to get rid of the wife. Because how could the wife, the blonde wife, possibly be anything more than that, married to the genius? I met a company that recently went through a similar thing where the wife was displaced by another male CEO. Anyway, so my husband was my biggest supporter. He was always there for me. And the fact that we decided not to tell anybody turned out to be a really good thing, because I got to be the one that I wanted to be. I was the president and COO of the company. My intelligence was never questioned, thank God. And as far as who I was married to, sometimes it was a barista, sometimes a stay-at-home dad, sometimes a construction worker, all of which was true, apart from the fact that he was my partner at work. We were rarely on the road together because we always had young children at home. But I remember one time we were in Barcelona and we were sitting at dinner with Microsoft, and there was probably 12 people around, and I could overhear him across on the other side of the table talking to somebody about his wife as I was just answering questions about my husband. So nobody knew exactly who I was, and I didn't have any desire to share my entire personality with everybody in the workplace. You know, nowadays everybody's talking about, like, bring your whole self to work, it's so good for you. Well, I had absolutely no interest in doing that. So in all of this, you know, I keep talking, I tell my story, but how does this relate to you? Like, why does this matter? Why are you so important in this mix? Maybe you don't even think about it, that it's kind of an uneven playing field, and that there are more men here than women. I know that all of us think about it, but do we really care about it? And does it affect our bottom line and so on? The new tech companies, and I'm so pleased that IGEL is in San Francisco, because the difference between San Francisco and Silicon Valley down south in San Jose is enormous. In San Francisco, every single company is not just talking about social impact to attract the talent, but they're really talking about diversity and inclusion. What is that? Well, diversity just means that we're different. It's not a group of people. It's actually what makes us all different. Inclusion means that we make people feel welcome and valued and seen, heard, respected, and recognized for the work that they're doing. You know, inclusion shouldn't be such a difficult thing, but it is. And it is because we're trained from really early on, like we're babies, and we see and we hear the people that look like us and that talk like us. And that follows us throughout the years, and we don't even think about it. So at work, maybe you're not interacting as much across generations as you could. Maybe you walk into the lunchroom and you'll see that the different ethnic groups are sitting by themselves. We're really uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable to sort of, to say, you know, come and hang with us. Hang with us. And don't make so many goddamn assumptions. Do you know how many times people have said to me, oh, so you must be in marketing? Well, you know what? It's kind of insulting for a person who's in sales. I just didn't appreciate that. I mean, I can't even get my slides right. I'm not in marketing, for sure. So this is not a workshop, but I want you to visualize something together with me, because this is really how I see things. In 3 years from now, you can close your eyes if you want to, in 3 years from now, you're sitting here in the same place. Jed's done an amazing job, the conference is bigger, there's tons of people. And on either side of you, there's a woman sitting. How does that make you feel? On your left, there's a woman sitting, and on your right, there's this cool and capable, confident woman who's known to be an amazing leader. She takes her team places that nobody's ever seen before. And you would love to work for her one day. And then on your other side, there's this tall engineer who's sitting. And she's much like yourself, one of the smartest people you've ever met. She solves problems like nobody else. And she's a winner. You want her on your team one day. Now, neither one of these two women look like you. They don't talk like you. They don't act like you. They don't share your skin color. They're not your age. One of them has an accent. But they're here for the same reason you're here. They believe in technology. They believe in solving problems. They love the customer interaction. And they love to close a deal. So that's my vision. Not 20% women, not 30% women, 50% women. If that requires that we start calling it something else than technology and IT, so be it. But we have to invite them in. And as much as I would like to, I can't do this on my own. We women cannot do this on our own. I'm kindly and humbly asking for your help. Diversity and inclusion is good. It's good for the business. It's good for the teams. And let me tell you why. Because when you talk to and work with people who are actually not like you, there's a part of your brain that gets activated, which is usually not activated when you're interacting with people that keep you in your comfort zone. And that activation stimulates creativity. You question things, you wonder about things, you do things differently. So equality is actually good for the brain, apart from good for the business. So there are a few things that we have to do for all of this to come together. You are responsible for the disruption. You are responsible for thinking about your own way of thinking about equality and thinking about your own responsibility. You can't wait for HR to come along with a new program and set things in motion. You can actually make a difference yourself. I have lots of examples, but we're very short on time. So I'm going to skip those, and I'm happy to talk to you about specific things that you can do afterwards. What I want to talk to all of you about, though, is the realization of your own power. You have to fundamentally understand that you have the ability to influence the behavior of others. You do, and you, and you, and you. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. Power was one of these words that got so terribly misused last year. Power is something beautiful. It's beautiful when it's used in the right way. And it's a terrible thing when it's used to abuse or make people feel smaller or diminished. There's this women's movement that's going on right now. I'm sure all of you guys have heard about it. And it can be a little bit uncomfortable. And it's okay, and that women's movement has to be there, and we need to stand up and support the women that are coming forward. I mean, it could be your sister, it could be your mother, it can be our daughters. So please stand up for those women that are actually coming out and being brave. Now, just to end this rapid presentation, think about how what I'm saying makes you feel. And then remember just 3 things. For the first is that, you know, we want to be here. I and all the women that I represent, and I know that I'm a white privileged woman, but all the women that I represent, and I speak for the women of color, the transgender women, the women with disabilities, all women, we want to be where you are. We want to sit next to you, we want to work with you, we want to interact with you, we want to lead you, we want to learn from you. The second thing is that we can't do it without you. In order for us to achieve diversity of thought in the workplace and improve results through inclusion, everybody has to be involved, every single one of you. And lastly, realize your power. Know that you have the power to make a huge difference in somebody's life. You have the ability to make or break a woman's professional life and her career. You matter. Thank you.